7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Welcome back into another edition of the Vegas Squares podcast. It is NFL picks time. We are in week 11 of the NFL season, and we got a full studio. Well, almost full. We got myself, we got Token Tony, and we got Spike on the mics. And I just realized, and I know we've been doing this show. Actually, I didn't just realize. Facebook told me. We've been doing this show. This is our 2-year anniversary.
Wow.
You mean not for you particularly?
I was going to say, I didn't
But for
think
you
I
and
was
I,
that
today,
long.
2 years ago, today is the November 16th, we recorded the first podcast.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I actually thought it was right around that mark. I wasn't sure exactly, but...
Facebook told me I had memories. They didn't say that. They didn't remind me that they were bad ones.
I remember it was after the first of the hockey season in Vegas, so...
Yes, that is correct. And I know that you've probably heard this, and if someone actually listens to this podcast, you've probably heard this too. This podcast was started after I made 11 bets in the NFL and lost all of them.
Ooh.
And I said, I texted Togan and I said, you know what? We should start a podcast where we give our picks and preach that people should fade us. Unfortunately, my pride.
If you've been fading me this year, you've been probably pretty damn good.
Yeah, it's like pride got in the way, and now I changed it to tail us or fade us instead of just straight fade us. What would our show be like if we were just like a podcast that was instructing you to fade our picks? Like, would we make different decisions on when we make picks? Like, we could have done this like our season-long bet on who had the most wrong. Could have done a lot of different things.
Who's the biggest loser?
Spike, when did you come around? You came around about a month or two later.
I was going to say, I was in...
It wasn't too far off.
Yeah, I was going to...
We're still
I was
in the
pretty
single-digit
easy.
podcast?
No, I don't think so.
I listened to the first podcast. This was a few months ago. It's bad.
I remember, yeah.
Yeah.
Takes a while to hit your stride.
Literally
this kind
started it by going, hello, welcome to the Vegas Squares podcast. We're just flicking
There's
the
a lot
mics
of
on,
dead air.
and we're bullshit.
I was so quiet, and there's a whole bunch of dead air. And
Yeah, and then, not to rag on the sponsor, but for whatever reason, 12 Ounce was like, you guys rock.
What the fuck is wrong with 12 ounce?
I don't know, but he did the college football podcast with me yesterday because someone was with the girl.
Oh!
Yeah.
Oh, now he's being shy and
By the
coy
way,
about it.
One thing I have not learned apparently in 2 years is that we have to give Token. Why do we give Token the worst microphone out of the four?
I have no idea.
That doesn't
Every
make sense.
goddamn week.
I will work on switching these mics around because I know that Spike's voice can carry. That microphone's not the greatest of quality, but I could probably get Spike to bring out the best in it. And that one's actually got the best quality, at least in my opinion. What brand is that one?
That's a good question. It is...
The Newer or whatever?
No,
They don't even make those. Oh, shit.
I broke something.
All right, it's not that important because no one really gives a fuck. So
Audio
let's-
Technica.
Okay, Audio Technica. There you go. That
Yeah.
sounds like a bad sci-fi movie. All right, let's thank.
Oh no, now it's falling apart. Hang on, there we go.
He did break it, didn't he? Oh,
Yeah.
boy. Oh, here's Spike's weekly battle with the windscreen.
I fixed it.
Okay. Where were we? Oh yeah, we're the Vegas Squares, and thanks for tuning in. All right, the sponsors: 12 Ounce Sports Radio, where we air every Friday, Saturday for college football, and Sunday for NFL picks. And also Seat Giant, promo code 12 Ounce Sports to get you discounts on your sporting events, theater, and concert tickets. All right, now that the bills are paid, we are going to jump into our season-long contest, give you our picks, but I don't know if you guys know, Beck and I talked about this yesterday on the podcast. Thursday Night Football was kind of interesting this week.
Ah.
Yeah, it was a little interesting. I mean, it was...
Still can't talk into the goddamn mic. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Here,
After 2 years, I still haven't learned, but...
I know. It's maybe more user error than actual operating equipment.
Usually is.
Yeah, so what do you think about that? Obviously, at this point in time, the suspensions have been handed down. I said it on the last podcast, the NCAA pod. I think he shouldn't get more than 4 to 6 games. It's looking, Spike, like it's going to be a lot longer than that.
The Myles Garrett suspension, yeah,
Correct.
that they said the rest of this regular season and postseason, which is super optimistic on the commissioner's part. But he will have to reapply for reinstatement, presumably sometime in the off season, and try to get back on a roster next year.
It says he's appealing it. How do you appeal an indefinite suspension?
I think at this point, because he's already put out the statement saying that he fucked up, and that's fine.
Contrition.
That's fine. That's probably something he had to do. I wouldn't be surprised if he was going to say, I'll eat the suspension, but it was the Players Association, the union, that said you have to appeal because they appeal everything. And, yeah, you're right. It should be formality at this point that they kind of go through that process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the system checks and balances and stuff like that. I remember...
Tokens using buzzwords.
Yeah. I was at work and... They were the players at work were talking about that after, and one of them said that's probably at least the rest of the year, and I'm like, and after noticing the replay before the suspensions were handed out, I'm like, actually, yeah, that probably makes sense though.
That's what I figured. 4 to 6 games, he'd come back next season. Again, postseason, obviously that's optimistic. Although Browns are 4-6 at this point, anything is possible. It's not totally a lost cause. It was funny because, a lot of people rag on Baker Mayfield. I'm kind of torn on his take on it. Right after the game, he made a statement basically to, I think it was Aaron Andrews or whoever the reporter was, and he said, look, no doubt it doesn't help our team. He's going to be suspended, and we're just going to have to go forward. Basically, it was a stupid play on Myles Garrett's part. He said that basically without naming names. And I was torn between the fact of, old Baker would defend his teammates or call somebody out at all costs, has no problem with it. And then new Baker, this guy that just existed on Thursday, actually didn't support his teammate at all.
That's a really tough spot to support that guy, though, because, it's just such an egregious, stupid... aggressive play that defending it
that theoretically wasn't started by him. No, I'm not condoning, and we've learned in life they always get the second guy.
Oh yeah, you always get the retaliation. And that's part of the problem is that Baker Mayfield is in a really tough spot because if he does support him, then, is he supporting a thug? Is he supporting violence? Is he supporting this, that, and the other thing? If he doesn't support him, then he's a bad teammate. So he's in a bad spot. Knowing that he was going to get suspended for the rest of the year, or at least assuming that was going to happen, I don't blame Baker Mayfield for kind of throwing him under the bus. And maybe that's the kind of wake-up call that Garrett needs is to, know that
$4 million plus
know that you did something so egregiously stupid that you're not going to be supported by the team.
Also fair. It also came out later on, I believe the next day, that the Cleveland Browns bench was celebrating the fight instead of either trying to defuse it or just remaining calm. So, they got a lot of fucking dysfunction. 2 steps forward, 10 steps back, it seems, every time in Cleveland. So.
Yeah, and that coach is not long for that team, I don't think.
No.
And, Togan, I actually have a small defense of Myles Garrett, and I said this on the podcast before. The only thing I can find to defend Myles Garrett or help his case is I actually believe that Myles Garrett, after he took the helmet off, knew that a brawl was going to ensue.
Mm-hmm.
And... fearing for Mason Rudolph's life, he actually just attempted to put his helmet back on his head. You think there's any chance that defense could stick?
At least he didn't have it upside down and try to.
Yeah, it looks like he totally tried to. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I thought 4 to 6 games, which the high end would have been the rest of the season. I'm okay with that. I don't know. People are talking about criminal actions, and
that is because there's only 2 people that can probably file.
I think Mason Rudolph's the only one who can.
Mason Rudolph or the
DeCastro?
No,
the
county, the Cleveland County or whatever.
Cuyahoga.
Yeah,
Cuyahoga County.
Yeah.
Why do you know that?
It has to do with my job, which I don't like talking about on air. So
Okay.
Cleveland or your job?
both.
Okay. Fair enough. So, all right. Well, I just wanted to get your all's takes on that and your opinion. Like I said, we talked about it on the college football podcasts. So I kind of wanted to just kind of have you guys weigh in on it as well. It's time for some picks. But first, before we do that, I don't want to gloat.
Uh-oh.
So I'll just sit here quietly while Spike gives us the updated standings.
So Aaron's in first place with 52 points.
I'm sorry, a little louder. I didn't have you up.
Fake Token's currently in second place at 44 points.
Aaron, I'm giving you a hand clap.
I am
One-gun salute.
in third place at 39 points after 2 consecutive weeks of 1-6, which isn't fucking helping anything.
Oh, God, it sounds like Token.
Token is currently at 35 points, beating only the random dice at 34 points.
For a while, I wasn't beating the dice, so.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, those are going by the points. So we have the extra points for beating the dice, extra points for money lines, and et cetera and so on. If we're just looking at win-loss records, it's actually significantly tighter.
Yeah.
Aaron currently in first at 34 and 37. Myself, Fake Token, and the dice all sitting at 31 and 39, with Token bringing up the rear at 26 and 44. So if you're looking to make money this year,
Fade Token.
fade the fuck out of Token.
What is I gotta do the math here real quick on the calculator here. What is 26 plus 44? What is that? 70?
70, yeah.
Yeah, that's
So you're 26 out of 70.
We're picking
39%.
37%.
we're picking 10 games or 7 games a week, and we just finished week 10. So that's 70.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Good talk.
Yeah,
What place are you in?
yeah. I'm hanging in there.
Okay. Cool. All right. So I did say that if the Falcons win that game last week, which they did, they beat the Saints 26-9.
Fucking Christ.
That I would let the producer pick my picks for the next 2 weeks, giving you all a chance to somehow get back into this game. Which I'm not trying to gloat because it's a very long season, and I am the defending regular season champion. But I have the producer's picks here, so I am curious to see. I actually am on board with 5 of them.
Okay.
So
That means 2 of them will be good.
So she'll go 5 and 2.
Yeah, and you'll still go 0 and 3 on the 3
on the
game.
3 game. Oh yeah. I got to remind myself what the 3 game is because I'll get that later from you when you send the Excel file on Thursday.
Yeah.
All right. So let's dive in. Let's talk about the games. First one on the slate. I believe none of us are on. That's Dallas and Detroit, which we have no Matt Stafford in this game. So that obviously makes Token really interested.
Oh, yeah.
Because now your under is starting to look like it's in play.
Yeah. Actually, I was thinking that last week. I'm like, that's probably a game that they probably won with Stafford, and I got lucky with that one. So
I think they'd be a lot more competitive. You're right. I mean, they're 3 and 5. Your under win total is what?
6.5.
6.5. So you have.
I have to fade 4 wins, which this should be probably a loss.
Yeah, and they probably have I think they have 1 more in the division with each, right?
I think
2
so,
more
yeah.
with the Packers. Either way, let's talk about the game at hand. We have Dallas -7 on the road. Driscoll again taking the helm for Detroit. The total is 47.
Who the fuck cares?
I think that's apt analysis.
Yeah, I mean, it is in Detroit. Detroit's a dumpster fire,
I mean,
especially
yeah.
with Stafford to begin with. So,
Well, I don't necessarily agree with that. But.
I mean, they have a lot of special needs this offseason coming on.
They got some special needs fans.
Wow. I kind of thought that's where he was going with it, but with the players.
The biggest one might be here.
Hey, Token, let me ask you a question. If we gave you an out, I mean, you can be from Detroit, I understand.
Yeah.
If we gave you an out and said, no judgment, you can pick a new franchise to be a fan of.
I'd still be a Lions fan, sadly.
Oh, yeah, you do have special needs.
Yeah. Well, they don't check for guns when you're entering the stadium because
Or the
you
city.
kill somebody else. It's just prevent yourself from blowing your brains out by halftime.
Oh, fair enough. Hey, is Little Caesars Pizza, like, super cheap there?
same as
Same
out
price.
there.
So then maybe they have like a $4 hot and ready.
Cardboard tastes better.
I don't know. Little Caesars for the price ain't bad.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I think there are better options, but
Of course.
for the price,
I'd rather have
for the
like-
price,
You,
for the
speaking
speed.
of where we live, have you had Hungry Howie's?
Yeah, I fucking love Hungry Howie's.
I
know, me too.
Dude,
That-
it's
that's
so good.
usually what we ate back in
Fucking
Michigan.
A, dude.
I had never had it until I moved up here, and that's it's just right around the corner from where
Yeah,
Aaron
it's
and I
over in
live.
the Lowe's shopping center.
Yeah.
Real good.
I used to
Pretty
eat
good.
that when I was a
No
kid.
flavor
When
crust.
my mom it was me and my mom. She was a single mom, and used to bring home Hungry Howie's. It was Wacky Wednesdays, $3 pizzas, and we'd have like 2 of them, and then we'd have one in the fridge for like the next 3 days.
Oh, god damn.
Yeah, they were
That's
good.
a good deal, yeah.
I haven't had them since I moved here. I've been kind of itching to try them. Not try them, but have one.
Yeah. Get back to it. I actually ordered for them so much through the app, I got like 2 free ones waiting for me. But now that I've had
Jeez.
surgery, I can't actually eat 2 pizzas anymore.
I'm thinking he ships a pizza to the studio next Saturday morning.
Oh, it's not a bad idea.
I think it's a great idea. Oh, and
See,
now
Delicious.
What time do they open?
I have no idea.
We're way off the rails
Crack
at this
research
point.
staff on that one while we talk about it. The bigger story, Spike, is obviously Dallas. They lost to Minnesota, bringing the record to 5-4. They're head up with Philly in terms of the division. They do have the game in hand with beating Philly. They got to win this game, right? I mean, Dallas has Detroit, Philly has New England. Most people would say that Dallas is going to gain a game in this spot.
Yeah, and that it does seem to be the case, especially with Stafford being out. Dak's been playing pretty well. He's second in the league at 2,700, 2,800 yards, something like that. Elliott's got at least 120 yards from scrimmage in basically every road game this year, or going back to last year. Like, this is a spot where Dallas should roll. 7-point favorites really seems to make sense. This Detroit team has been so up and down all year with Stafford that without him, I don't know what kind of team we can expect to see. I mean, this could be the kind of drop off that we saw in Indianapolis when they went from Brissett to Hoyer, or it could they might still be competitive like what we saw in New Orleans when they went from Breeze to Bridgewater. So it's just
decent defense. Driscoll held his own against Chicago last week.
yeah, and it's going to be a question of coaching is what it comes down to. And do you think that Matt Patricia is a good enough coach on paper to beat Jason Garrett and the weapons that they have, especially on offense? And it's a question mark, and it's going to be. I think this is going to be an interesting game to watch, especially for the fans of Detroit, to see what you have in the rest of the team against a really good opponent like Dallas.
Yeah, not only that, I mean, I already know Token's answer, but Spike, I mean, we're based on open this week at 3 and moving 4 points in Dallas's direction after Matt Stafford. I mean, we were talking about, we looked at the sheet before the season, and Pat Mahomes is the only one worth more than 3 points they have set in this league.
Yeah,
And now we're saying that Stat Padford is worth 4.
Yeah, well, I think it's a comparison to the backup because going from Mahomes to Moore, is that a 3-point loss? Probably, because Mahomes is such
Remember they said Mahomes was a 5.
Was it a 5?
Mahomes is 5. I think Brady's 4, and everybody else is no more than 2 to 3 points.
Wow. Well, that shows what Vegas thinks of the drop from Stafford to Driscoll, which is, maybe accurate. And really, let's face it, Chicago, you can't base how Driscoll is going to perform the rest of the year against Chicago because Chicago is so fucking bipolar this year that it's really difficult to gauge based on that one game.
Fair. And trends, or money trend at this point is 2-1 in favor of Dallas with the 7 points in the spot. I think this might be a good spot for sharp money to get the Lions. But no official play from any of the squares at this point. So.
No, we got the dice on it, but the rest of us are staying off.
All right. New Orleans at Tampa. Always a fun game. And New Orleans in the division. We saw what happened last week in Atlanta.
Fuck you.
I'd just throw that in there. Unfortunately, fortunately for New Orleans, they have had great success in Tampa against the Buccaneers, who come into this game at 3-6, 1-2 straight up at home. 0-3 against the spread at home. So, I mean, if there's ever a time for New Orleans to right the ship. I heard this week, I'm trying to think of who said it. I'll think about it while you guys are commenting. but there was someone on the radio that said it's time for New Orleans to move on from Drew Brees.
Ooh.
After the season.
And what, go with Bridgewater full-time?
Yeah.
I mean, he's probably one of the better backups in the league right now, though.
I mean, I thought about it, and he even said it. He's like, at first glance, or the first time you hear this, you're going to go, what the? And you just think about it. I mean, younger talent was able to direct the offense. I wish I could remember who it was, but maybe not so far off base as...
Maybe it was Colin Cowherd or something? Or?
No. It was a guest on Dan Patrick's show, but I can't remember who it was. I found it very interesting. Again,
was it
taking
Bill
it back
Belichick?
at first. Oh, my God, shut the hell up. I took at first glance that I was like, what the fuck? And then I thought about it. I'm like, Green Bay had to move on from Favre. Eventually, at some point, either he's going to retire or New England may be looking at moving on from. I hope not with Jarrett Stidham, but
Yeah.
Sometimes these guys have to move on. San Francisco had to move on from Joe Montana.
Yeah.
So
it does happen, and
they're not moving on from him this game though.
So definitively not this
5.5
season.
in favor of New Orleans. 49.5 is the total.
Yeah, and this has been sort of a weird line too, because the total opened to 51. It's dropped to 49.5, which is strange when you think about the offensive power of New Orleans, and you think about the fact that Jameis Winston has thrown for 300 yards in his last 4 games straight.
Yeah, that offense has a lot of explosiveness with Mike Evans, Godwin, and
the thing is, they've been in those games too. Against Arizona, they were leading. They were down at one point, but they eventually won the game. Against Seattle, they were in the game, leading most of the game. The 3 that come to mind against Tennessee, they were right in that game as well. So it's not like they've been garbage time yards for Jameis Winston. They've actually been
competitive.
Clutch, competitive. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, and that's and it's interesting, especially with New Orleans coming off that loss to Atlanta. You would think that they're going to be in sort of fuck you mode. Which should mean that they're driving the offense and driving the points up. I don't know how this total is getting bet down, to be honest with you.
I actually, New Orleans is averaging 22 a game this year. I don't have the exact number, but they played 9 games, 204 divided by 9, and 22 a game, 22.6 a game. That's not the old New Orleans offense that we remember scoring 28 to 30.
Well, people probably looking at last week's 9 burger. So,
the Bucks are the higher scoring team. They're 3-6. They put up 260 points this year. Also giving up 280, but that's a different story. Yeah, their defense is bad, but it's been bad for a long time. Yeah, Buccaneers scoring 29 points a game this year. So, this is going to be a tough one. Alvin Kamara is still a question mark. He played last week. He's questionable this week. Something's not right with him. You can tell. The usage level after a bye week against the Falcons, I believe he had 9 total touches. That's not Kamara numbers.
Yeah, that's not how you, especially for a team that looks like they've built an offense around this kind of a weapon. To only give him 9 touches in a game is just, something is off. Something is wrong with him. The fact that he's thinking about playing in this game shows that he's a tough kid and that he's willing to get in there. But I'm curious as to why they think, or why even put him out there. Let him rest for a couple of games, get healthy, and then get back in it for the inevitable playoff push.
Yeah, because with all due respect, they're still 7-2. They're probably going to win this division, barring slipping up against Carolina, who we'll talk about here in just a second. But interesting spot here. Tampa Bay's been competitive. Unfortunately, have suffered some tough losses. This one will be interesting. I'm interested to watch this game simply because these games generally are shootout style games, and obviously the total reflects that. So I'm curious. At the total, sits right at the 2 teams' points. So I'm curious about the total in this one. So I'm not 100% sure which way to lean on the other side. So Atlanta and Carolina. As much as I loved Atlanta last week, I think they stink this week. I'm not in love with them at all. The total is 4. The spread is 4 in favor of the Panthers. The total is 49. I think this team is This is weird to say, but I think this team with Kyle Allen is very efficient. I really like the way they play football, and I like the way it feels more like a team than the Cam Newton show.
I agree with that. I mean, they certainly feel like they're a better, more cohesive. Well, I shouldn't say better, but they are a more cohesive offense with Allen. They look like they know what they're doing more. McCaffrey is still a beast, and this is a game where Carolina looks like they should roll. But what we saw last week out of Atlanta's defense, if they had been playing like this all season, Atlanta would be right up there at the top of the division.
They can't seem to put both sides of the ball together
and
consistently.
This is the frustrating thing. So when you look at, some of the things that, if you look at what Carolina's offense did against a good defense like San Francisco, they were almost non-existent. If Atlanta's defense can play like that, like they did last week, we saw them shut down a powerhouse offense. I think Atlanta might be competitive in this game. Especially Matt Ryan. He's averaging 320 yards a game, something like that. So I mean, this is a good spot for him.
Yeah, I'm on the other side of that one, Spike. I think Carolina has the offense to kind of stir up the Atlanta's defense in this game. Atlanta seems to always play the Saints high and all that, and I think that's what some people are looking at. I believe 4 is right around what the number should be. It's kind of a stay away game for me, in my opinion. But if I had to bet it, I would take Carolina.
Yeah, the interesting thing, I think the X factor in this, and it's going to sound weird, is a gentleman by the name of Younghoe Koo. Matt Bryant was having huge problems making kicks this year. And the Falcons, much like what the Colts should do, is walked up to a legendary kicker and said, "See ya." And last week, Younghoe made 4 field goals and 2 extra points. Kicking, as much as we find it largely irrelevant, it matters in this game. Games come down to it. And you're right, 4 is a strange number, especially to have to lay that, or in a division game, you usually want to take those points. And like I said, if you're leaning Atlanta, obviously having the extra point there is really, really good, because division games traditionally remain close, and a lot of talking heads really have this game close because of what Atlanta did last week. So, I think we're going to see a close game. Not necessarily saying that the dog is the automatic bet here in this spot, but Carolina's dropped 2 of its last 3 after its 4-game winning streak. So I think, especially now especially if Tampa Bay is able to beat New Orleans, we have a one-game lead in that spot. You'll have 6-4 Carolina if they're able to win versus 7-3 New Orleans with 2 games remaining for those 2 teams. So I think most competitive division is always this division year in and year out, and this year doesn't seem to be any different. This one's going to be an interesting one, game 2. I'm curious to see how this one comes down. Let's see. We've got tabs open all over the place. Jacksonville and Indianapolis, and we get the return of BDN, allegedly. It looks like he's going to play. We also get the return of Jacoby Brissett. A home game. Gardner Minshew will be taking a back seat, so the mania was fun while it lasted. But we got 2.5 in favor of the Colts, which kind of ironically is funny because we were just talking about kicking issues. And Spike, did you know that Adam Vinatieri has played more games for the Colts than he has for the Patriots?
Yes.
You didn't know that?
Yeah, I had heard that.
No, I did not know that.
Many people associate him with the Patriots because of, obviously, the 3 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
But he's played with the Colts for 14 years.
Yeah, it's unbelievable that he's been there that long.
26 years now? Something like that?
Not quite that much. 22, I believe. But, tomato, tomato.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he spent 8 years with the Patriots, won 3 Super Bowls. He spent 14 with the Colts and won 1. Up to 2 weeks ago, I didn't realize that he had spent more time with it. That means Gostkowski's been in the league since fucking 2006 too. He's probably done.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's on his way out at this point.
So, anyways, but we get BDN back. I actually think, despite no disrespect to Gardner Minshew, I think Jacksonville has just gotten formidable again. Solid rushing, good defense and a quarterback who can navigate and make less mistakes.
Yeah, and the question is going to be for BDN is how much did this rest hurt or help him? Obviously coming back from an injury, it's one of those things where you have to wonder, was he rehabbing physically? Was he learning the playbook? Because, remember, this is still a new team for him. And even with the offseason and the preseason where he was able to play at least a little bit, having all of that downtime and time on the sidelines, that's not the same as being out on the field, developing the rapport with the receivers and the running backs. It's not the same as being under center and calling the plays and getting that timing down. That is something that this team definitely needs, and they need to hit that stride right away in order for them to be competitive, at least in this game. Because otherwise, if the timing's off, then any time a quarterback's timing is off, then that's just bad news all around. That leads
It's going to mess up the whole offense and the offensive line. It
leads to turnovers.
Penalties.
It leads to false start penalties. This is not the recipe for success. It's good news for Jacksonville moving forward for the rest of the season. I'm just curious when a quarterback is coming back from this kind of an injury, especially with a team where he really hasn't had that much time. That's where my hesitation is in this game.
That's a fair assessment. I mean, it's not like when Drew Brees comes back, he's been with the team for a decade now. This is a guy who literally just signed in the offseason.
Exactly.
But I think this game's really big for both teams. I mean, I applaud Gardner Minshew. I mean, they're 4-5 at this point, are the Jaguars. And they're really right in the thick of the wild card race. I mean, you have right now in the hunt. Let's see who's got the wild card right now. The Raiders. Let's see. We have Raiders, Texans, Chiefs, and Bills all at 6-3 or 5-4. And at 4-5, I mean they're not too far out. They beat the Colts this week, and they're 5-5 along with the Colts. At that point, and they move right up. I mean, The Chiefs got a tough game against the Chargers. The Texans got a tough game against the Ravens. The Bills, well, they played the Dolphins. And the Raiders played the Bengals. So, I mean, they're not obviously going to... That's true. They won't necessarily jump into a playoff position, but they definitely are at a crossroads right now in standing. And I actually like Jacksonville in this spot, even though it's on the road, even though BDN's coming back. The money line, of course, is not quite there yet for our picks at 125, but it might be a decent bet if you are interested in taking that.
Yeah, and this is a spot where I don't necessarily like them in this game, the Jaguars, that is, but if they lose this one, the rest of their schedule actually looks fairly winnable. Going against Titans, Bucks, Chargers, Raiders, Falcons, and then ending the season with the Colts. This is a team that, like you said, they're right in the thick of it now. Even if they drop this game and fall to 4-6, they're still going to be in it in this division, especially with what looks to be a relatively soft schedule coming up too.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement for sure. And I mean, a lot of weeks ahead and stir up these playoff teams and what will make or break them. So,
all right, Denver and Minnesota. This game seems like a laugher, but Denver has been able to. Denver's like my Jay Cutler. I bet against them, they cover. I bet on them, they get their doors blown in. So Denver's on my DNBL for the rest of the year. At this point.
He's the Alex Norton of football for you.
They are. Joe Flacco is out, so Brandon Allen's going to get another start here in this spot against Minnesota, who we were talking about, had a big win on Sunday night in Dallas. They're playing phenomenal. Kirk Cousins looks like he's taken a step towards becoming, and I don't use this word lightly, so I will just preface it by saying becoming an elite quarterback. I mean, that's what obviously the Vikings set out to do by guaranteeing a full contract with him. Obviously, the defense and Dalvin Cook have helped him out tremendously. I don't know if you guys watched that Sunday night game. Did you see that Kyle Rudolph catch? That was pretty sweet, no?
No, I missed it.
No. You guys are the worst.
I know.
Dude, Kirk Cousins was throwing the ball out of bounds, and somehow fucking his Hulkamania arms just reach out into the sky and just pull it down, one-handed catch. So,
What,
anyways,
his fifth catch on the year or something?
you had to be there, I guess. But he is going to be missing Adam Thielen again, which hasn't seemed to dissuade Cousins from obviously finding other ways to beat you. Dalvin Cook, I mean, fantasy-wise, he's been a godsend. But even in real life, he's a leading rusher. The defense has kind of stepped up. Danielle Hunter, 8.5 sacks this year. They are 5th in the NFL in scoring defense at 18 points a game, and the Broncos are 24th in the NFL in points per game at 16.6. So two of the or one strength against the one team's weakness. What do we have for a total? We have 10 for the spread. Total we have is
I see 40.
40 right on the dot. So I mean, I don't know. That's an interesting one. It's sniffing blowout city here in this spot.
Yeah, and I'm not on this game just because I think the lines are a little too dead on balls accurate for me. I question whether or not the Broncos are, this isn't a spot where Denver can go in and just throw the ball 40 yards every play and, try to move the ball in just bunches. They're going to have to do game management, dink and dunk, get the running game involved early.
A lot of screen passes.
Yeah, screen pass, like everything
Take the
like
pressure
that.
off a guy making his second start.
And just make sure that this quarterback gets the confidence that he needs so that if later in the game that you have to go to those longer passes, then,
You might be able to.
he might at least be willing to take the shot if he has the confidence behind him. Well, I mean, that's a good spot for them. But right now, Kirk Cousins, 2,500 yards, 18 touchdowns against 3 picks. I mean, that's really fucking strong.
It's what they bought, man.
Yeah. So that's exactly what they needed. And sitting at 7-3, I mean, this is a spot that Minnesota, especially at home, Minnesota's been playing great at home. This is an interesting game. Going to be a good one to watch, a good one for fantasy. I do have Cousins on my team, although I think I have him on the bench right now. But it's definitely something worth watching.
You got Cousins on your team?
Oh, for God's sake!
Kissing Cousins?
No, Dalvin Cook staying healthy
Yeah,
has
answer
been a
that.
big factor for Minnesota this year, as well as probably helping Cousins' confidence boost by just having something to rely on to open up his pass and his game management for sure. But however, I am on Denver on this one, plus the 10. I think they are able to find a way to cover. What did I do wrong?
Made it 5 games.
Oh.
Minnesota, fun stat. Good for them that this game is not in Denver. They are 7-3 this year, right? A little fun fact here.
All right.
0-3 on grass, 7-0 on turf.
Wow.
Yeah, everything about this is just begging you to just take the Vikings in this spot. I actually do not have a play on this game, but if I were to, and the reason I don't have a play is because the DNBL you have to stick to the DNBL, otherwise you're just throwing money down the tube.
Yep, I learned that.
I would be
Detroit.
I would be on Denver in this spot because I feel like everything. I mean, let's look at the money. If this thing would fucking load, 71-29 in favor of Minnesota -10. I mean, there is a lot of chalk eating in this game. So I think you're right. I think this is a prime spot for Denver, but they're on my DNBL for a reason, and I will not be making a play on this game. Oh, speaking of games we're not watching,
Oh boy. What do we got?
we've got 2 in a row.
The second one seems more interesting.
No, it doesn't.
Gee, I know, right? What?
Yeah, it does.
No,
Yeah,
it
does.
doesn't.
Yes, it does.
Jets and Redskins.
Yeah.
The only thing exciting about this is I'm curious to see if Dwayne Haskins is any good. And even still, with that curiosity, I'll catch the highlights, if there are any.
And let's remember this, too. Dwayne Haskins and the Redskins are favored.
I mean, would you feel better if the Jets were favored?
I feel I kind of think that this should be a pick'em.
Basically, it is on a neutral field. They're giving Washington
2.5 points, but that's
they're basically saying the Jets on a neutral field are half a point better. So that's effectively a pick 'em.
I get that, but it's not a pick 'em because this is
Do you buy the home field is worth 3 points?
No.
It depends really on the stadium and all that. I would say 2.
How about in this game? Are the Jets the better team? Can you confidently say the Jets are the better team?
No, not at all.
I mean, the thing is, they're talking about that home field being worth 3 points, for stadiums like Kansas City where it's just incredibly loud.
Yeah, but I think it's become a
Detroit back
general
in the day,
betting
or
trend.
Right,
Seattle.
but Seattle's another great example of that. But in this game, are they even going to sell this game out?
So not San Diego, or Carson, California.
No. But I mean, is this a game where I don't know what the FedEx Field capacity is? Well, let's say it's
Like 80,000.
I was going to say if it's 80,000, do they have 50,000 butts in the seats for this game?
Hell no.
In butts in the seats or announced attendance?
Butts in the seats.
No. Under for sure.
I don't know how we'll know because they're going to announce an attendance. They're never going to go 1, 2,
Yeah, no,
6, 7, 8.
yeah, I get that, and they're going to go by ticket sales, and whether or not the people show up is irrelevant. But
I'm going to say just because DC and New York are 3 hours away.
you think there are enough Jets fans that give enough of a shit to make that drive?
I think yes, and they're going to get tickets for half the cost of the Meadowlands.
Oh, that's a fair
Even
point.
cheaper, probably.
That's a good point.
Why are you the way you are?
I think I saw for this game like tickets as low as $10 or something.
Fuck. Who wants to make the drive? Oh, it's only about 30 hours if we leave right now.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a little longer than that.
Why would he do
Why are
that?
you the way you are?
Why would you make...
It's 30 to Detroit if you drive straight.
Nobody in Detroit drives straight, though.
I did. That explains a lot. That explains a lot, right?
All right, so 2.5, 38.5. Clunker of the week here. I don't know.
$7.
I feel like $7. There you go. So you can get back row seats for $7 plus fees. How much are fees on a $7 ticket?
Probably 45.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I don't like anything about this game. I'm curious to see Dwayne Haskins, but again, I can catch the highlights again if there are any. Sam Darnold. I said from the beginning of the draft that he was going to be the best out of those 5 quarterbacks, and he's the second worst. And that's even I'm putting him behind Baker Mayfield.
That's something. By the way, 35-hour drive from here to FedEx Field, so fuck your mother.
Maybe more. We got to stop for gas.
I wasn't going to go that far.
What, do you not you have a car that doesn't use gas?
No.
Speaking of gas, goddamn
no.
token.
What?
Oh, was that just the chair then?
Yeah.
Next game.
All right.
Moving on.
Buffalo and Miami. Buffalo 6.5 point road favorite. Total 40.5. All right, I'll give credit where credit's due. Fitzmagic looks like that train is hitting the midway point of its 4-week run because that's about the extent of Ryan Fitzmagic. He's good for about a month. Remember last year with the Bucks, we were all like just drooling over him.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
How long can this last?
yeah, well, we found out real quick.
And then,
I guess the Achilles. It didn't make sense to me last week when Buffalo played Cleveland, and I know Spike was all up on arms in that game.
Oh, this fucking game.
Oh, by the way, you don't get the point. Why do they not use this guy Singletary more? What is the fascination with using Frank Gore? No disrespect to a legend, but for the love of God, run your rookie into the ground. This guy needs to be getting Alvin Kamara, well, pre this year, Alvin Kamara-like touches. This guy can catch, he can run, he's fast, he's elusive, he's a rookie, he's on a fucking great deal for the team, and he gets 9 touches.
Yeah, it does seem a little strange that they're going with Frank Gore. Maybe it's just confidence in the offense. Or confidence in knowing the offensive scheme. I don't know if Singletary has been dropping the ball at practice, or if he's, if they're worried about him fumbling. Like, I don't know what the the problem is. But I do know that Miami's defense is ranked 30th against the rush, giving up 146 yards a game. So I think we're going to see plenty of both of these guys in this one. I mean, this should be Buffalo just jamming the ball down Miami's throat all day.
And playing devil's advocate for the Miami Dolphins is Token.
Yeah, I kind of like Miami in this game. I think with Fitz magic, he might produce a little and keep this game moderately close. And I mean, they are at home. Buffalo is pretty good team. Definitely a playoff contender, but however,
please say it. Please say it.
Do it.
I think Miami wins outright.
I thought he was going to say they're really bad against the spread on the road when they're 3-0-1.
I thought he was going to say the game would end in a tie because he pumps that thing every week.
Game.
Okay.
Oh, my goodness. I thought he was going to be like, they're really bad against the spread on the road. And I'm like, I got the stat right here.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Again, we don't want to spend too much time on this. I'm sure someone has a pick, but was it the one he just made?
Yep.
Oh, boy. You couldn't make it 5 games and you've blown your load in the last 2.
I didn't give my official pick on this one. I said I think.
For God's sake. All right, move on.
All right.
Goddamn.
My favorite game of the week, Houston versus Baltimore.
Ooh.
A matchup of the future stars of the league, if you're led to believe that. Lamar Jackson versus Deshaun Watson. Lamar with the edge, 4.5-point favorite are the Ravens. Total is 51.5. They're expecting a shootout in this game, obviously. My inclination is to tend to lean towards a more defensive struggle. Houston coming off of a bye. Baltimore plays really good defense. I'm thinking Houston, who has spent 2 weeks trying to figure out how to contain Lamar Jackson, may have a formula.
Yeah, and, Houston, I was high on them last year, not as much this year, although they seem to be playing better this year than they did last year. One thing that I saw this week that actually is really, I don't know if perplexing is the right word, but it's something that might give people pause when they start thinking about Lamar Jackson as the long-term solution, is that through his first 16 games, because this is his, I think, 17th game as a starter, through his first 16 games, he has basically the exact same stats as Tyrod Taylor.
I saw somebody on Twitter say that, too.
Yeah, and that is not a recipe for success because I don't even know if T-Mobile is still in the league at this point.
He's Phillip Rivers' backup.
He is Phillip Rivers. Okay, so he's somewhere at least. It's for what we've seen out of Lamar Jackson, obviously he's playing very well. Team seems to be responding to his offense. They're building that team to play that style of game. That hashtag not bad for a running back is still, Lamar Jackson's kind of throwing it in people's faces when he's actually able to throw passes, which is good for him. I think that, Aaron, I think you're right that it could be a defensive struggle at the beginning, but I think at some point these teams figure each other out and the ball just starts flying. So I think this is going to be a fun game to watch. It's definitely something I'm interested in watching, or it would be interesting to watch if I didn't have other plans. So I'm not going to be able to watch any of these fucking games on Sunday.
Oh yeah, you texted me about that. Will and Grace marathon, right?
Yeah, exactly. That could be what it is. I do love Megan Mullally. I can't lie about that. So.
Really?
Yeah.
Like low-key, like you love her as an actress, or you think she's like low-key hot?
No, as an actress, I think she's
Okay.
great. Especially her and Nick Offerman together. The two of them are fucking hilarious.
Oh, in those commercials?
In the commercials, they actually did a show at the Hard Rock, I think, or at the House of Blues a couple of years ago.
Nick Offerman's pretty funny.
The wife and I went to see that one. It was fucking hilarious. They called it the Summer of '69, and it was just basically all references to them having sex. So,
Nice.
Yeah.
I got to give Token credit. I'm going to go way back into the vault here.
Oh, boy.
You may remember, you may not, but Token suggested a little thing called the 2-quarterback system.
Uh-oh.
Well, I think John Harbaugh may have been listening to you because he debuted the Heisman package last week, Token, with Lamar Jackson and Robert Griffin III on the field at the same time.
Yeah,
He's a fucking genius. He's an innovator. Token Tony, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, my
Token
God.
Tony.
Way to go, Token.
yeah. I don't think it will last too long. Happen many plays.
I mean,
but
if there are 2 quarterbacks that should be implementing your system,
those
these are the
two.
guys.
Yeah.
I mean, not Alex Smith and who did you have? Alex Smith and
Kirk Cousins, because he didn't realize that he had left Washington.
Yeah, that's right. Alex Smith and Kirk. I'm gonna die.
Oh, we can only dream.
Oh, fuck off.
But both
Then we'd all have to
game
go to
managers-
your place to do the podcast.
Hey, my office is clean. I'm actually redoing it over Thanksgiving weekend. So.
Your wife wishes you guys were redoing it sometime.
Hey,
Too. Oh God! I wish we were filming this. That was horrendous.
I don't think I want to watch that again.
Oh, God. You need the Men in Black memory wipe right now.
So
Yes, please.
Deshaun Watson off a bye gets probably going to get Will Fuller back. He's questionable, but they said he's been practicing all week. I think both quarterbacks are going to, or I guess all three if Robert Griffin plays, but I think both quarterbacks are going to have some tough times.
Yeah, I based on the analysts that you were given and all that.
I'll take one of Spike's bold predictions. Lamar Jackson throws for under 150 yards this week.
Oh.
Yeah, I think both these two teams' focuses are on the run, and Baltimore is probably with Lamar Jackson, and Houston is probably with maybe Hyatt or Deshaun Watson. So,
Yeah, this is going to be a fun one to watch. I'm not sure if I'm more excited for a shootout or more excited for Lamar
I'd rather
Jackson
see a
being
closer
stuffed.
game. I'd rather
Yeah.
see a lower scoring, closer game.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. I think we're going to have something around
I think that's what Houston needs to win this
around
game.
27. What is the line on that game? 51?
51 and a half, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, then I think we're going to have something right around that total, actually. Which, I mean, I guess you consider that a shootout. Would you consider it a shootout if it's 27-24 in this game?
It wouldn't feel like it if it was
Not with these
that.
offenses.
Yeah, but
Especially how Baltimore's been this year against a few teams. They put up mid-40s.
All right, well, let's move on to San Francisco hosting Arizona, another double-digit favorite. San Francisco is now a 10-point favorite. They opened up pre-Monday night as a 14-point favorite. Obviously, the line movement is because San Francisco lost their first game of the year, and Jimmy Garoppolo looked a little exposed. Spike, first off, were you I mean, I know that it's hard to say goodbye to Tom Brady, but were you somebody who was thinking we need to finally turn the page?
not when Garoppolo was on the roster. I'm more and more getting there with Brady, but I didn't think that Garoppolo was the answer. And he's looked good at times this year. He's looked pretty average at times this year. I think he's got 14 touchdowns and 8 picks so far, which isn't great. I mean, 8 interceptions is just way too many mistakes for a quarterback to be making, especially
For a quarterback that hasn't had to been asked to do much. Either.
Right. Yeah, and he hasn't had to win games with his arm quite yet. I think that he probably could. But I don't know. I do think that the Patriots still need to find that serious backup contender, not somebody that's necessarily going to challenge Brady for the job out of camp, but somebody that can definitely, when needed, step in and be competent and run the offense well, which we don't have in Stidham right now.
That's fair. I mean, there's not a lot of experience for Stidham. He's obviously going to have to get that, and they haven't been blowing out teams as much as they'd like. And you mentioned it earlier. Earlier in the season when they were blowing out teams, they put Stidham in. It didn't go well. And we talked about it, I believe, in the Dolphins game against the Patriots, where you said Tom Brady is going to play every snap because Bill Belichick says it.
Yep.
But we're talking about Arizona and San Francisco now. I love watching Kyler Murray. I shit all over this guy for going number 1 in the draft, and I will eat crow because I enjoy watching him play. Does that make him bettable? I don't know. But this is a big number. Second biggest one of the week, tied with Minnesota and Denver. San Francisco got exposed, but they're still a really, really good team.
Absolutely,
Especially at home.
Especially at home, especially if Kittle is healthy too.
Yeah, he is not.
He is not. Yeah.
Yeah.
He has been He is registered as doubtful, and they're pretty sure he's not going to play.
Yeah, doubtful is like 80% unlikely to play. Yeah, definitely a fun one to watch.
Why? Why does he do that?
Where did you fucking find this guy?
I don't know. He just showed up at my job one day.
That's true.
I mean, honestly, how, and this goes for everyone, and I do it too, and I'm guilty of it. People who put percentage chances on things mostly are bullshit. How do you get 80% there?
That is actually the standard for doubtful, probable, questionable.
I'm pretty no.
Yeah, it is.
I think doubtful is pretty much 95%, barring some catastrophic miracle that you wake up feeling great.
Doubtful's 20% to play, questionable is 50%, probable is 80%.
I think probable. I've never seen anybody probable that doesn't go. Are you going to research someone who was marked probable that didn't play?
No, I'm looking up to see if it's
Come on, don't
there.
let him be right here. Because then I'll feel like I had to learn something today. Okay, so you're both looking up the same thing, and I'm just talking to myself at this point.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, good talk. Arizona 7-3 against the spread this year, 4-1 on the road. I mean, all signs point to, especially with the loss to Seattle, all signs point to really everybody wanting to be on the Cardinals this week.
Yeah, it seems like that, and I mean, of course, you're kind of rooting for Murray in this spot if you do like Arizona, and maybe with the Gabe Porno tied in with that too. Larry Fitzgerald, yeah. I mean, this one will definitely be a fun one to watch, but
I mean, if you have no Kittle, or 80%, whatever. If you have no Kittle and Emmanuel Sanders is a game time decision, but they say he either cracked a rib or bruised a rib, that's going to be hard for a receiver to run routes with a bruised rib.
Yeah, that can't be comfortable.
I mean, we saw when you take away his two toys and the running game doesn't work, yeah, you're going to have to rely on Garoppolo, and I can't feel good with Garoppolo and a double-digit spread.
Yeah, and I think it's tough, especially with what's his name, Blair tearing his ACL against Seattle. So they've lost one of their defensive ends, and San Francisco's defense has been their strength this year. So losing him is certainly going to be tough. I think trying to contain Kyler Murray is going to be key in this game. Losing a defensive lineman is not the way that you do that. Also, it is going back to the probable, doubtful, questionable thing. It changed in 2016, so I'm using an old definition. But probable meant that players would very likely start, and 95% of the players who were listed as probable did start in the following week. Questionable was 50% chance of playing, so I got that right. Doubtful meant that a player had a 25% chance of playing. It has been changed to doubtful is now very unlikely to play, and they're not putting 2.5% to 4%. They're not putting a percentage on it.
He's looking at the same website.
Well, I saw last year 2.5% doubtful players ended up being active, and then in 2016 it was 4%. So,
eat a dick.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, legitimately, that is the way the NFL classified it, is that if the player had a 25% chance to play, they had to be listed on the injury report as doubtful.
Yeah, but I mean, is there like a doctor that's like, yeah, 27% chance, you can list him as questionable?
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, again, 88% of statistics are pretty much made up.
Yeah.
Where are we at here? New England and Philadelphia. New England, 4.5-point road favorite. Philadelphia, total is 44.5. I don't love this game. Philly coming off a bye, New England coming off a bye. Everything favors the hoodie. But I don't feel good about this game.
Yeah, this game, despite what Insider is saying, well, yeah, Insider does say it opened at 3, which is actually where I bet it as soon as it opened, was New England minus the 3. Moving to it was 4 this morning when I looked it up to make picks, and now it's at 4.5. So this line is just going to keep moving in New England's favor.
And I don't agree with it.
Well, it's one of those things where when New England has looked bad, they've looked really bad, but they've looked really bad against competent teams, and Philadelphia has not looked competent in certain games this year, especially against the Dallas game. So it's one of those things where you kind of have to wonder what you're going to get out of Carson Wentz, because everybody wants to make this a rematch of the Super Bowl. Well, it's not. These are two very different teams at this point. New England's defense is significantly better. Carson Wentz is starting for Philadelphia instead of BDN. So it's one of those spots where I think you can't use past analysis of the way that these two teams have matched up against each other. I think you just have to look at what they've done this year. And I think this year that New England being the better team certainly should help them. Belichick's record after a bye week is fucking astronomical. I don't even remember what it is at this point, but he's, giving him 2 weeks to prepare for anybody is just bad news for the opposing team. So it's going to be an interesting one. One, again, I wish I could watch, but that Will and Grace marathon ain't going to watch itself.
What are you really doing? I'm curious.
Night's Game. They got the premiere of that movie Valiant at 1:30, and then puck drops at 4. So
why can't you watch this game? Oh, 1:30.
Because it starts at 1:25.
Nobody gives a fuck about the Knights documentary.
I do. Plus, the strip is being closed for the marathon
you got to get there early.
At like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So it's basically, if I don't go for the movie, I'm going to get so utterly fucked by the traffic that I'm better going for the movie. Plus, they're giving out free popcorn. So yeah,
you can have 5 kernels.
I don't know. I'm sure they'll be cheap about it, but
I'm talking about how many you can eat.
Oh yeah, how many I can actually eat? Yeah, I can probably do about a handful.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
you know what I'm curious about?
Yeah.
What do you think Spike's 40 time would be right now?
Probably quicker than mine.
Are you slow?
I am slow. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're slow in the head, but I thought you were quick on your feet. Spike, what do you think your 40 time would be right now? In the 5s?
Absolutely no idea. Yeah, maybe. I mean,
you lost like half a human.
Yeah, I've lost over 100 pounds at this point. And I was going to the gym for a while, but then my weight plateaued. So I said, all right, I'm going to stop with the gym, I'm going to stop with the diet for like a week, and then I'm going to go back at it even harder. I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing. That was like 8 weeks ago.
Well, let me ask you. You said you went to the gym, but the real question is, did you go inside?
Yes,
okay.
I did actually. I ventured inside and I worked out, and I was working out, and I was religious about it for probably about 6 months, and then, like I said, I stopped when I plateaued. And now I've
probably put on some muscle.
I'm trying to get back into it.
No, just kidding. You probably weren't.
Definitely didn't.
Yeah.
All right, New England and Philly. The total is really low on this one. We got 2 really good defenses.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this New England defense will be definitely well rested for this game and prepared, especially with Belichick at the scheme of things.
Will they be more well rested than the Eagles?
No, same.
Okay, I'm just making sure you're still keeping you on your toes.
Yeah. No, definitely going to be a fun one to watch for sure. And I mean, they got Philly this week, and then after they beat them, they're on to the next week. So
that's usually how that happens.
Yeah.
I think I didn't make an official play on this, so I'll talk about it. I think Philadelphia keeps this game within 3 or wins this game with a steady dose of Miles Sanders, Jordan Howard, and defense. Tom Brady has thrown 1 touchdown or less in 4 of his last 6 games, and Sony Michel hasn't looked great this year. So I think it's a defensive struggle. I think New England ultimately will come out on top, but it will be. Shut up! Look at that look, you muppet. I think New England wins a close one here. 21-17.
Yeah, so my -3 is good.
Your -3 would be good, yeah. That's okay. You can win the bets that I'm not actually against you on.
Okay.
Just me and everybody else.
Yeah, wonderful.
No, he made an actual cash bet on a window, is what I'm saying. I don't care. You can win that bet. But, Cincinnati and Oakland, biggest spread of the week. Oakland laying 12 points. I don't care. Against anybody, I wouldn't feel comfortable with that.
It's actually the first time in like 60 years Oakland and San Francisco were double-digit point favorites.
That's an interesting stat because they've both been bad for a long time.
Yeah. I like
at this time at the Westgate, they are a 12-point favorite. Total is 48.5. Cincinnati going with start number 2 for Ryan Finley. I don't think he looked terrible in start number 1. He just faced the juggernaut that was Baltimore. So they got out early. They got on top fast. And I mean, what's the harm in just seeing what you got here at this point? I mean, you're on the road. You're 0 and, correct me if I'm wrong, 9?
0-9. Yep.
Yeah. What do you have to play for? I mean, what gets these guys motivated to play a football game?
I mean, it really can't be anything at this point. I think it's just playing for contracts, playing for the future, playing for jobs next year. And I think that, that game in Week 16 that Cincinnati has against Miami, which should have been the battle for the number 1 seed, but with Miami winning 2 games.
Pick?
Or number 1 pick, yeah, sorry. Number 1 pick.
They're nowhere near the number 1 seed.
It's
In reverse.
It's one of those, it's just one of those spots where the team just kind of has to suck it up, go out there, put on their best face, and not give the media anything to talk about afterwards. So it is kind of strange though, because Cincinnati, even at 0-9, is 3-1 against the spread on the road. So. But that again was all, I believe, under Dalton. So having Finley, I don't know. It could be interesting. I guess it'll be a nice character building game for Finley, and we'll see if he can.
We'll see what they got.
See if he can hold on and not look so bad. But this last week, I got to hear 16 of 30 for 167 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 turnovers, both of which were returned for scores. So that's not a recipe for success.
No, I think he'll get a little more under his belt here. But I just the line more of a testament to Oakland giving someone 12 points rather than Cincinnati being as bad as they are.
Yeah, I mean, especially with Spike's ginger brother Dalton not playing. But I was able to find one last week that's a new ginger brother for you, is Ryan Jensen.
Who dat?
He's the center for Tampa Bay.
Oh, all right.
What's up, bro?
There we go.
Yeah, so, I mean, no interest in this game. Who the fuck cares?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at
I'm on it.
I'm on the game too, but looking at the game, I mean, there's no game this year that tells me that. And I understand Cincinnati's bad, but again, I've always said that the talent discrepancy between first and last isn't large. There's nothing that tells me that Oakland should be a 12-point favorite in this spot. So I guess I've kind of showed my hand in my pick there, but that's all right. I'm still going to save it for later. Let's go back to I closed the window.
Chicago and the Rams.
That's right. We got the Sunday night matchup. Chicago and the Rams. No, I didn't close the window. I just clicked on the wrong one.
There you go.
The line is currently the Rams 6.5. The total is currently 40.5. Last year, this game was in Chicago. Chicago beat the Rams, actually giving them their first loss of the year, if my memory serves me correct.
I believe that is correct.
This year's these two teams are equally as messed up right now.
Yeah, they're both looking mediocre. Neither of them playing great football. Rams are kind of up and down. Bears are kind of up and down. Rams 6.5-point favorites in this spot seems a little peculiar, but it's one of those games where you really have to wonder if McVay is for real as the coach. You have to wonder if Goff is for real as the quarterback, or if if last year was kind of a fluke. And I think that sort of talk is going to start rearing its ugly head more and more, and it's up to McVay to make sure that he can keep the locker room focused and keep the team focused on actually winning games, because they're not out of it by any stretch. I mean, they're in a really fucking tough division.
A little bit.
Yeah, they're going to have to win outright in order to compete for even a wild card spot at this point. But that's something that if the team from last year can show up, they certainly have the ability to do it. But they're 1-2 at home, 1-2 against the spread at home. Not ideal for this kind of a spot, especially laying essentially a touchdown. I'm curious to see how this game shakes out in the end.
Yeah, this one will be definitely one of the better recent Sunday night football games to watch.
Last week sucked?
No, it was good as well. But I mean, there's a few earlier.
There were no helmet throwing, but
yeah, there was a few earlier in the year that were pretty bad. And I mean, you got two teams that had high hopes again coming into this year, and then pretty much they're at almost the bottom of their divisions right now. And it's like a must-win game for both. So
It's something
It's like
a lot of people don't think about. They just expect greatness out of the teams that did great last year is having to play first-place schedules.
Yep.
Chicago has to play one, and LA has to play one, and sometimes
Chicago
that's
the year
tough.
before
Chicago
played
the year played a fourth-place schedule.
yeah,
So those things matter. I mean, both these teams, Trubisky is heavily flawed, but lucky for him, Jared Goff is almost as heavily flawed as a quarterback as well. I mean, Spike talked about it after the Super Bowl last year. Once the helmet shuts off, he's got to play quarterback, and we're not 100% sure if he can.
Yeah, and 11 touchdowns to 9 picks is showing me that he's making some bad decisions out there.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, you talked about McVay, and the thing that separates great coaches from good coaches from bad coaches is adaptation. And everybody wanted the next Sean McVay. Well, now he's having to earn his paycheck, and I mean, they're still 5-4, like you said. They're still okay. But the problem is the two teams above them in their own division are 8-1 and 8-2, and the wild cards are both Seahawks at 8-2 and the Vikings at 7-3. So, I mean, they're a game and a half behind a wild card spot right now. I don't know I don't have the rest of their schedule in front of me to look at, but I would imagine it doesn't really get too much easier.
I'm sure they still have games against San Francisco and Seattle coming up, too.
They definitely have at least one against San Francisco. They already lost to Seattle.
So they have the Bears this week. They face the Ravens next week.
Doesn't get easier.
Yeah. They go to Arizona. That's a little easier.
Seattle, at Dallas, at San Francisco, and home against Arizona.
Yep.
So, I mean, let's give them the win this week. Again, you can. That's we'll lock it up for a win. We'll make it easy here. 1, 2. I'll give them 3 wins and be generous. So you're looking at an 8-8 season at this point.
And I win my futures bet where I have under 10.5 wins for the season.
Yeah, double-digit wins for teams, it's hard.
Yeah, especially having to play a first-place schedule.
Very, very hard. And that's why...
Unless if you're the Patriots, maybe.
That's what I'm saying. It's so hard when people, when the Patriots lose one game, everyone's, they're garbage. I mean, they play first-place schedule for what, 9 straight years, 10 straight years now?
Yeah, I mean, that division's pretty awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still, I mean, they've played Kansas. They've played the first-place teams from the other division.
Exactly, and they still win.
Yeah. So... All right, the Monday night melee in Mexico. Alliteration at its finest. Kansas City and Los Angeles. I guess they're dubbing LA as the home team because why not? When they play at home, it's still an away game anyways.
That's true.
The spread on this game currently is Kansas City as a 4-point favorite. Set the odds that this game gets moved back to LA like it did last year.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that, didn't it?
Are they having any concerts before the game?
No, I thought it was soccer or something. Or no, it was.
I thought it was a concert, and when they moved all the stages, it got fucked up.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right about that.
Are there any activities going on? Is there like a kids' picnic that might fuck the grass up?
That actually would be it would be funny if that's all it took to fuck things up. But I don't know. I think that
soccer, their grass is as pussy as their players.
Yeah. So I mean, this game, if it did get moved, would have to get moved to Carson then, correct? There's no chance it would get moved to
home team, yeah.
Kansas City. Okay. Yeah, and
I mean, unless logistics make it so that that's the only option. I don't know if the Galaxy have a game. That's weird.
No, the MLS just finished. They actually had the MLS Cup last weekend.
So
yeah.
then we should be good.
Yeah, so the stadium should be open. So I don't see any reason why they couldn't move it up there
on a short notice.
Yeah. So
52.5 is the total.
Yeah, and this game is one that last year was really going to be a fun, interesting. Divisional matchup to watch, especially with two teams going in the right direction. We expected and got those games last year. This year, I'm not so sure. The Chargers have not shown me anything to get excited about, especially at quote unquote home. They're 1-3-1 against the spread, which is not great. They're moving in the wrong direction at this point, and I'm not super confident in Phillip Rivers' ability at this point, especially, 14 touchdowns to 10 picks, not a good ratio, and that's somebody that's making a lot of mistakes. And that's not something that you can afford against a Kansas City team where Mahomes has only thrown 1 interception this year to 18 touchdowns. So, you turn the ball over, you give it back to Mahomes, and this game fucking is over before it begins.
Yet, for as poorly as Spike believes that the Clippers have looked, they're only 2 games back of the Chiefs. The Chiefs have brought this division up to them.
Yes, absolutely. And they had it in their hands, and then it slowly started to slip out, it seems like, with a few losses to not-so-quality teams.
Yeah, and having the backup start for a couple of games in Kansas City certainly didn't help. I mean,
Went
more
1-1.
than fine, yeah. But
1-1.
yeah, I mean,
And they should have beaten the Packers in that game too. So, the question really is what Kansas City can't play defense.
Yeah, no, they've never been able to.
No, I know. I mean, it's just like I don't have a play in this game, but if I had, I had to take a spot, I'd take the Chargers to win this game. They're desperate. They're in desperation mode. Melvin Gordon wants to get paid. Phillip Rivers wants to go out, and this ain't the way he wants to go out. They're getting healthy. Melvin Ingram came back last week, and him and Joey Bosa have combined for 9 sacks in the last 4 games.
Yeah, that defense is looking much improved.
And I believe Derwin James is coming back this week. He is questionable, but they're saying he's been practicing. That's a huge boost for the Chargers. If they can get finally healthy, they were much better with not having to rely on Phillip Rivers. I mean, Melvin Gordon's now getting in the offense. It's been a month now. If Derwin James is in this game, even if he's not, I still think I like LA with the plus 180 on the money line in this spot. I mean, like you said, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where they play because they don't actually have a home field. So, all right, that's the Monday night game. Side note: I know we won't talk about it because we don't talk about Thursday night games, but Indianapolis and Houston next week looks like a fun one too. So, just something to keep your eye on. All right, so now that we have talked about every game, it is time to give picks. There is a caveat, though, unless things have changed throughout the podcast. We have not received Tony Johnson's picks. So since he's at the mercy of the court, if they don't come in by kickoff at 10 a.m., I'm in for 0-7.
Yeah, I think that's the only fair way to do it.
Yeah, we talked about the 1 week that you had your cruise and all that. And
I still got my picks in. I was not even in this country.
Yep. Yeah, no, you definitely got them in. If the 10 a.m. games kick off and then he sends me picks that are only in the afternoon / Monday night, we can make.
So if he can still have 7 picks,
we could make a determination at that point.
Well, okay. How about if by the 1 p.m. Pacific games he doesn't have picks, 0-7. I'm willing to give him.
I think that's reasonable. Yeah.
By the 1 p.m. games, we don't have picks. He's 0-7 because he could still make picks then. But I mean, good Lord, how much time do you need?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
he's weighing his options. It can go either way.
Oh God.
Somehow, with a 7-game slate, Token's going to have a tie.
Probably.
All right. So again, we have the verdict out on Tony Johnson's picks, Fake Token's picks. We'll start with the dice this week.
Start with the dice. All right.
You always forget them, so we'll start with them.
I do, and these picks actually, there's I think only one that I'm really on the fence that I kind of disagree with. So should be an interesting week. They are on Dallas and Detroit taking the favorite. Dallas minus the 7 points. And again, I did these this morning, so if these lines have moved, just tell me.
Still 7.
Okay. Atlanta and Carolina. They're taking the dog. Atlanta plus the 4 points. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Denver and Minnesota taking the favorite. Minnesota minus the 10. Then we're going into 2 overs. Houston and Baltimore over 51.5. Oakland and Cincinnati over 48.5. Taking the Bears money line plus 240. Going for 2 bonus points on that one. And then rounding it out with the Monday night game, going over the total of 52.5. 52.5. All right.
Yeah.
Make that change, and then we're good to go.
How about yours?
I am riding your coattails and taking Atlanta money line this week as opposed to last week. Again,
Let's go Panthers.
I think if that defense shows up,
league, right, Tony?
I think they're strong. I'm agreeing with the dice on one of them. Houston and Baltimore over 51.5. I think that's a kind of shootout game that if both teams go into the 30s, then it wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. New England and Philadelphia, even though I bet New England -3 and felt good about it, I don't necessarily feel great about -4.5 in this spot, but I'm still taking it anyway just because I'm fucking stubborn as shit.
Which one was that?
New England, -4.5.
Got it.
Oakland and Cincinnati, I'm riding the favorite. I don't think Cincinnati puts up anything this week, so Oakland -12. Jets and Skins, I'm actually riding the Jets. The Darnold experience keeps going on. I don't think that Washington has a home field to speak of, so Jets plus the 2.5. Miami plus the 7. I think they keep it close against the Buffalo team that has looked anemic at best on offense. And Arizona and San Francisco, I'm taking the over 45. I think Garoppolo goes into fuck you mode and 44.
Yeah, you get a point there.
All right. I think Garoppolo goes into fuck you mode. I think Arizona is going to put up enough to help push it over the top, but I think like a 35 or 30-17 type game is probably what we're going to see out of that one.
Fair enough.
Yeah, the last two times these two teams played, it was 28-25. So,
Yeah, there we go. That'll work for me.
all right, Token, what you got this week?
All right, this week I've got the under in the Colts and the Jags at 43. I've got Denver plus the 10. I think they are able to run the ball, keep Minnesota's offense off the field.
We already talked about the games.
Yeah. Miami money line plus 250.
Told him not to give his picks during the talk about the games. He does that, and then when he gives his picks, he wants to talk about the games more. Goddamn, Token.
Yeah, I'm taking the Dolphins money line this week. Plus 250 on this one. Arizona money line as well, plus 400.
Jesus Christ.
Chicago money line plus 240.
Oh, he's in the dumpster. He's got to get some. He's got to get some wins.
Wait, Chicago money line's what now?
Plus 240.
240. How do I have that at 180?
Chargers was 180.
Chargers is 180. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that could be it.
Yeah, and I have the Chargers at plus 180. And then Chicago plus 6.5.
All right. So, like I said in the beginning of the podcast, since the Falcons won outright as a 600 favorite, I, for whatever reason, had some verbal diarrhea and said I would let Desiree make the picks. So, without further ado, here they are. She has the Texans plus 190, getting a bonus point there. For the 7-game and the 3-game, she has the Jets and the Skins going over 38.5. Panthers -4, which is why I'm fading your Carolina ass.
Yeah,
or your Atlanta ass. She has the Jaguars. Actually has moved. She is now only getting 2.5 instead of 3 in that spot, so I need to change that. The Bears plus 6.5, and also the under 40.5 in that game. And I don't know if she just can read my mind, but she is going balls to the motherfucking wall.
Oh, God, if this one hits, I fucking quit.
And taking Cincinnati money line plus 500. Oh, I loved it. When that came in, she's like, Bengals win. She didn't put plus 500. She just put Bengals win. And I love everything about that pick.
Oh, God.
Because on one hand, if it hits, you guys are eating my dust. And on the other hand, if it doesn't hit, it's only one. I'm not worried about it. So, yeah, so that's the picks there. The Bears, both the Bears games are on my 3-gamer as well. So pretty much since I've punted the 3-game contest, I'm not really too worried about that one. Having basically my 3 picks on the 3 outcomes that I hate the most in the Jet Skins and on both the Bears results. So, all right. Anybody got a bold prediction?
I had one and then I lost it. Come back to me.
Pass.
I think Chicago wins by double digits this week.
Whoa.
On the road, double digits, eh?
Wow.
Very interesting. Shall we go back to you?
No.
No, nothing yet? All right.
And we
what I
already
had.
know yours, Aaron. Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I'll give you that one, but I'll also say that despite not playing this weekend, there will be a new NFC West leader in first place.
Oh,
I like your
interesting.
Arizona money line.
Interesting.
Although I'd rather lose my bold prediction than have you win 4 bonus points.
I'm so much in the dumpster, it's a little almost too late.
Hey,
Yeah.
it's never too late.
True.
All right, I will say that, let's see. We've got Finley starting for Cincinnati. We got, what's his name, starting for Denver. Allen starting for Denver. And with Jameis Winston, I say the 3 of them combined to throw 0 interceptions.
That is bold. I say the 3 of them combined to throw 5.
Probably more accurate. But I'm going with this one
That
anyway.
wouldn't be very bold then. All right, so let's wrap it up there. Obviously, good luck to you if you tail us. Bad luck to you if you fade us. Let's thank the sponsors one more time. First and foremost, obviously, 12-Ounce Sports Radio for airing us every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Friday and Saturday for NCAA picks, and Sunday for, obviously, the NFL, which is what you're listening to right now. Seat Giant, promo code 12-Ounce Sports for discounts on all of your sporting events, concert, and theater tickets. All right, well, with that being said, good luck to me, bad luck to you, well, 2 at this point, and we will catch you next week on the next podcast.